The Apache who refused all women froze when he saw her washing. He was known among his people as a man of few words. From a young age, everyone noticed that he was different. While other boys laughed loudly, chased dreams of family life, and spoke openly about the future, he stayed quiet and focused. His eyes always seemed distant, as if they were fixed on something no one else could see. He grew into a strong and capable Apache man, respected for his discipline and sense of duty, but also whispered about for his cold nature. The elders trusted him with important tasks. Hunters relied on him. Warriors admired his control. Yet, when it came to matters of the heart, he was like stone. Women noticed him as he grew older. His calm strength, his steady walk, and his quiet confidence drew attention without effort. Mothers spoke his name when discussing possible matches for their daughters. Young women tried to catch his eye during gatherings, festivals, and shared work by the river. Every time he refused, politely but firmly. He never raised his voice. He never mocked anyone. He simply said no. At first, people thought he was shy. Then they assumed he was waiting for the right time. As years passed, they realized it was something deeper. He did not want closeness. He did not want promises. He did not want the life others dreamed of. He chose to live alone in a small shelter on the edge of the settlement, close enough to serve his people, but far enough to protect himself. No one knew the full reason because he never explained. He believed that some truths were safer when buried. Long ago, when he was still young, life had taught him a harsh lesson. Loss had come suddenly, without warning, leaving a mark that never fully healed. He learned that attachment could turn into pain, and hope could become regret. From that moment, he made a silent promise to himself. He would rely only on his own strength. He would give loyalty to his people, but never his heart. Each morning he rose before the sun. He trained his body, sharpened his skills, and prepared for the day's duties. Routine gave him peace. Predictability kept unwanted thoughts away. He believed that as long as he stayed disciplined, nothing could disturb his balance. The village slowly accepted him as he was. Some respected his choice. Others felt uneasy around him. A few elders worried that a man so closed might one day lose touch with what made life meaningful. Still, they could not deny his value. He never failed his responsibilities. He never acted unfairly. He never allowed personal feelings to interfere with duty. When women approached him, he listened respectfully, then stepped back. He never allowed conversations to linger. He never encouraged hope. Over time, fewer tried. Word spread that his heart was unreachable. At night, when the fires burned low and families gathered together, he often sat alone, watching from a distance. He saw laughter, shared meals, quiet understanding between partners. He told himself he did not need those things. He told himself solitude was freedom, and most days he believed it. But sometimes, in the deepest silence of the night, memories crept in. He remembered warmth. He remembered trust. He remembered how easily everything could be taken away. When those thoughts came, he tightened his resolve. He reminded himself why he had chosen this path. He was not bitter. He did not hate women. In fact, he respected them deeply. That respect was part of the reason he stayed away. He believed that allowing someone close without being fully open would be unfair. Since he could not promise a shared future, he chose distance instead. The elders tried speaking to him more than once. They spoke of balance, of the strength found in connection, of the way life was meant to be shared. He listened quietly and thanked them for their concern, but when they finished, his answer remained the same. His path was already chosen. Seasons changed. Years passed. The man remained unchanged on the outside, calm, focused, alone. The morning air was cool, carrying the soft sounds of nature waking up. He was sent on a simple task near the river, nothing unusual. He walked with steady steps, his thoughts clear and empty, just as he liked them. He did not expect anything different. He did not look for it. And yet, life rarely asks for permission before changing direction. As he approached the water, he slowed without knowing why. Something made him pause. The world seemed quieter, as if holding its breath. Then he saw her. She was by the river, focused on her work, washing clothes in the clear water. There was nothing dramatic about the scene. No sudden movement, no loud sound. Just an ordinary moment of daily life. And still, it stopped him completely. He stood frozen, his body still but his mind unsettled. He did not understand what he was feeling. He had seen many women before, in many places, doing many tasks. This should have meant nothing. And yet, his heartbeat changed. His thoughts scattered. She worked with calm patience, unaware of him. Her movements were steady, practiced, and quiet. There was a sense of peace around her, as if she carried it naturally. The morning light reflected off the water, surrounding her in a soft glow that felt almost unreal. He told himself to move. He told himself this moment was meaningless. But his feet would not respond. For the first time in many years, his carefully built control wavered. Inside, something shifted. Small, but undeniable. He turned away before she noticed him. His chest felt tight, and he did not like it. He walked back toward the village faster than usual, his thoughts loud and uncomfortable. He was frustrated with himself. Angry, even. One simple moment should not have this power over him. That night he did not sleep well. His routine failed him. His mind returned again and again to the river, to the quiet morning, to the calm presence that had disturbed his peace. He reminded himself of his promise. He reminded himself why distance was safer. Still, he knew something had changed. He did not yet understand what it meant. He only knew that the man who believed his heart was closed had felt it stir, just once, in a way he could not ignore. The next morning, he woke earlier than usual. The sky was still dark, and the air carried a quiet chill. Normally, this hour brought him peace. His thoughts were usually clear, his body ready for movement, but today his mind felt heavy. Images from the previous day returned without warning. The river, the calm water, and the woman who had unknowingly disturbed his balance. He sat up slowly and took a deep breath, telling himself it meant nothing. One moment could not undo years of discipline. He had faced far greater challenges than a passing sight by the river. Still, the feeling remained, like a stone resting quietly but firmly in his chest. He went through his routine carefully. He washed his face, prepared his tools, and stepped outside. The village was quiet. Smoke rose gently from a few early fires. Life moved forward as it always did, steady and familiar. He reminded himself that nothing had changed, yet as he walked, he found his steps slowing near the path that led toward the river. He stopped, noticing what he was doing. His jaw tightened. He turned away sharply, choosing another route. He would not let curiosity guide him. He had promised himself long ago to avoid such weakness. Throughout the day, he kept himself busy. He volunteered for extra tasks, helped repair tools, and joined others on short patrols. Physical effort usually cleared his mind, but this time it only pushed the thoughts deeper. Every quiet moment allowed them to rise again. He told himself that what he felt was only surprise. Anyone could be caught off guard by an unexpected scene. There was no reason to give a meaning. He repeated these thoughts again and again, hoping they would settle his unrest. Later that afternoon, while returning from his duties, he saw her again. This time, it was not by the river. She was walking through the village, carrying a basket, her steps measured and steady. She spoke softly to an older woman beside her, listening more than talking. Her presence was calm, not demanding attention, not trying to be noticed. That calmness struck him more than anything else. He slowed without realizing it. She did not look at him directly, but as they passed, their eyes met briefly. It was a simple moment, lasting only a second, yet it felt heavier than it should have. There was no expression of surprise or interest on her face, only quiet awareness. Then she looked away and continued walking, unaware of the storm she left behind. He stood still after she passed, his thoughts racing. He felt foolish. This was exactly what he had avoided for so long. He had built his life on control, and now control felt fragile. That evening, he avoided the central gathering. Instead, he walked alone, beyond the village, where the land opened wide and quiet. The sky stretched endlessly above him, filled with fading light. This place had always helped him think clearly. Tonight, it did not. Memories surfaced, old ones he had kept buried. He remembered a time when he believed connection was strength, not risk. He remembered trust given freely and the pain that followed. His hands tightened at his sides as he reminded himself why he had chosen distance. He could not allow himself to forget. At the same time, another thought pushed forward, unwelcome but persistent. The woman he had seen did not remind him of the past. She did not awaken fear alone. There was something else, something gentler, quieter. That realization troubled him even more. Over the next few days, he noticed her often, though he never tried to. She appeared during shared work, helped elders, and moved through the village with purpose. She was never loud, never demanding. She seemed strong in a way that did not need to prove itself. He watched from a distance, always careful, always silent. He did not speak to her. He told himself observation meant nothing, but deep down he knew it meant more than he wanted to admit. He began to notice small details, the way she paused to help others, the patience in her movements, the respect she showed in every interaction. These were qualities he valued deeply, qualities he believed were rare. This made him uneasy. He asked himself questions he had avoided for years. Why had one moment shaken him so deeply? Why did her presence linger in his thoughts when he had trained his mind to remain empty of such things? One night, he spoke with an elder he trusted, though not directly about her. He asked about balance, about whether a man could remain strong without closing himself completely. The elder listened carefully and spoke with calm wisdom. He said that strength without openness could become loneliness, and that fear often wore the mask of discipline. The words stayed with him. Days turned into weeks, and his inner struggle continued. He remained distant, but something inside him softened. He no longer felt anger toward the feeling that had appeared. Instead, he felt confusion, mixed with a quiet curiosity he did not yet allow himself to follow. The woman, unaware of his conflict, continued living her life. She carried her own responsibilities and challenges, though he did not yet know what they were. What he sensed, however, was resilience, a quiet endurance that matched his own in an unexpected way. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he passed her near the edge of the village. This time, there was no one else around. They exchanged a brief greeting. Simple, respectful, nothing more. Yet his heart beat faster than it should have. As they went their separate ways, he realized something important. He was no longer frozen by fear alone. He was standing at the edge of a choice, one he had avoided his entire adult life. He did not know what he would decide. He only knew that pretending nothing had changed was no longer possible. After that brief greeting, his inner world refused to return to silence. He tried to tell himself that it was nothing, just a polite exchange between two people from the same village, but his body reacted before his mind could calm it. His heart beat faster, his breathing felt uneven, and his thoughts would not settle. This disturbed him deeply. For years, he had trained himself to remain steady in every situation. Now even simple moments felt heavy. He avoided her for several days after that. If he saw her working near a path, he chose another route. If voices gathered where she stood, he stayed away. He believed distance would restore order inside him. Distance had always worked before, but this time, distance only made the thoughts louder. When he was alone, her presence returned to his mind without warning. He remembered the calm way she moved, the respect in her voice, the quiet strength in her posture. These memories did not bring fear like the past ones did. Instead, they brought questions. Questions he had not allowed himself to ask for a long time. He became frustrated with himself. At night, he lay awake longer than usual, staring into the darkness. He reminded himself of his promise. He reminded himself of the pain that came from attachment. He told himself that his life was simple and complete as it was. Still, something inside him did not agree. During the day, others began to notice small changes. He was still responsible and focused, but his silence felt different. Less controlled. More distant. A close friend once asked if something was troubling him. He answered calmly, saying he was only tired. It was not a lie, but it was not the full truth either. As days passed, their paths crossed more often, though never by intention. Sometimes it was near shared work areas, other times it was during gatherings where everyone came together. Each time he felt the same quiet pull, the same confusion. He never stared. He never approached. He simply noticed. She, on the other hand, treated him as she treated everyone else, with respect and calm kindness. There was no special attention in her behavior. No attempt to draw him in. That made everything harder. If she had shown interest openly, he could have stepped away more easily, but her quiet nature felt sincere, not demanding anything from him. One afternoon, he saw her sitting with a group of children, helping them with simple tasks. She listened patiently as they spoke, encouraging them without raising her voice. He watched from afar, surprised by how naturally she guided them. There was strength in her patience and wisdom in her calm. These were not qualities he saw often. That realization unsettled him. He began questioning his own beliefs. For years, he had thought avoiding connection made him strong, but watching her, he wondered if strength could also exist in care, in quiet responsibility, in showing up for others without fear. Still, fear had not left him. The past remained close, even if he did not speak of it. Loss had shaped him, carved caution into his bones. He believed that once he allowed someone close, he would lose himself again. That fear guided every decision he made, even now. One evening, while completing a task near the edge of the village, he heard voices nearby. He recognized hers among them. He did not move closer, but he listened. She spoke about responsibility, about doing what needed to be done even when it was difficult. Her words were simple but honest. They reflected thoughts he carried himself. For the first time, he wondered what had shaped her into who she was. That question followed him for days. He realized then that his struggle was no longer about her alone. It was about himself. About the walls he had built and whether they truly protected him or simply kept him isolated. This realization frightened him more than anything else. He began to remember moments from his past he had avoided, times when he felt joy, trust, and closeness. He also remembered how suddenly those things disappeared. His fear was not of connection itself, but of losing it again. Understanding this did not make the feeling disappear, but it gave it a shape. And once something had a shape, it could no longer be ignored. He noticed that the woman carried her own quiet burdens. Sometimes her smile faded quickly. Sometimes she paused, lost in thought. There was strength there, but also responsibility. He respected that. He did not see her as someone careless with emotions. If anything, she seemed cautious in her own way. This created a strange sense of balance between them, even though they had barely spoken. One late afternoon, while returning from a long task, he found himself walking near the river again. The water flowed calmly, unchanged by time or worry. He remembered the first moment he had seen her there and felt his chest tighten, but instead of turning away, he stopped. He stood by the water for a long time, listening to its steady movement. He realized that the river did not fear change. It moved forward regardless of what it lost or gained along the way. That thought stayed with him. That night, he sat alone and made an honest admission to himself. He was afraid, not of her, but of what allowing her presence to matter might mean. And yet, despite that fear, a quiet part of him wanted to understand her, not avoid her. This internal conflict followed him everywhere. Some days he felt ready to remain distant forever. Other days he felt tired of carrying his fear alone. He had not yet decided which side would win. The woman remained unaware of the depth of his struggle. She lived her life with purpose, carrying responsibilities, helping where needed, and facing her own challenges quietly. But something had shifted between them, even if it remained unspoken. One morning, as they passed each other near the village path, she paused briefly and asked a simple question about his well-being. Her voice was calm, not intrusive. He answered politely, surprised by how natural the exchange felt. Afterward, he walked away with a strange feeling in his chest. It was not panic. It was not anger. It was something softer, unfamiliar, and difficult to name. He knew then that this was no longer just a passing moment. It was a turning point. Whether he liked it or not, his heart was no longer completely closed. And once a door opens even slightly, it is never as easy to seal it again. He did not yet know what he would do next. But for the first time in many years, he knew he would have to face himself before he could move forward. In the days that followed, the man felt a quiet shift inside himself. It was not sudden or dramatic, but steady, like the slow change of seasons. He still woke early, still trained, still fulfilled every duty expected of him. From the outside, nothing seemed different, but inside, his thoughts were no longer as tightly controlled as before. He began noticing how often he thought about the past. Not just the pain, but the moments before it. The trust, the shared silence, the feeling of belonging. For years, he had pushed those memories away, believing they made him weak. Now, they returned with a different meaning. They reminded him that he was once capable of closeness, and that closeness had not destroyed him. Loss had hurt him, yes, but it had not erased who he was. This realization unsettled him. One evening, he visited an elder known for wisdom and patience. This time, he did not speak in riddles or ask general questions. He spoke honestly, though carefully. He shared that he had lived many years believing distance was the only way to remain strong. He admitted that something had changed, and he did not know how to face it. The elder listened without interrupting. When the man finished, the elder spoke softly. He said that fear often hides behind discipline, and that strength is not the absence of feeling, but the courage to face it. He reminded him that avoiding pain also meant avoiding growth. Life, he said, was not meant to be survived alone. The words stayed with him long after he left. As time passed, he noticed the woman more clearly, not just her presence, but her life. He learned, through quiet observation and shared stories from others, that she carried responsibility from a young age. She had lost much, yet never allowed bitterness to shape her. Instead, she chose patience. She chose to serve where needed. She chose to move forward without complaint. This knowledge deepened his respect for her. He realized then that she was not a distraction. She was a mirror, reflecting parts of himself he had ignored for too long. She did not awaken chaos in him. She awakened truth. Still, truth was not easy to face. There were moments when he almost approached her, ready to speak beyond simple greetings. Each time, fear stopped him. Fear of opening wounds, fear of failing, fear of discovering that he was no longer the man he believed himself to be. Yet something else grew alongside that fear, understanding. He understood that his refusal of women had never been about them. It had been about protecting a broken part of himself. And while protection had once been necessary, it had slowly turned into isolation. One afternoon, while working near the edge of the settlement, he found himself beside her unexpectedly. There was no crowd this time, no reason to rush away. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she asked him about his work, her tone calm and respectful. They spoke briefly, simply. There was no pressure, no hidden meaning. And yet, the exchange felt important. It showed him that connection did not have to be overwhelming. It could be slow. It could be gentle. Afterward, he felt lighter, not heavier. That night, he sat alone and reflected deeply. He accepted something he had long denied. Avoiding pain had not brought him peace. It had only delayed healing. He saw clearly now that strength was not built by closing oneself off, but by choosing honesty, even when it felt uncomfortable. He did not suddenly change his ways. He did not rush into anything, but he allowed himself to feel without punishment. He allowed curiosity without guilt. And most importantly, he allowed himself to believe that his past did not have to decide his future. The woman continued living her life quietly, unaware of how deeply she had influenced his journey. She did not seek his attention or expect anything from him. That alone taught him an important lesson. Real connection is not forced. It grows naturally when both people are ready. One evening, as the sun set and the village grew quiet, he walked by the river again. The water flowed as it always had, steady and patient. He remembered standing there before, frozen by fear. This time, he felt calm. He understood now that life would always carry risk. Loss could happen again. Pain could return. But avoiding life entirely was a different kind of loss, one he was no longer willing to accept. He took a deep breath and made a quiet decision. He would not run from what he felt anymore. He would move forward carefully, honestly, and with respect, for himself and for her. This choice did not change everything at once, but it changed enough. For the first time in many years, the man felt aligned with himself. Not hardened, not closed, just honest. And in that honesty, he found a strength deeper than any discipline he had ever practiced. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know where his path would lead, but he knew this much. He was no longer afraid to walk it. The change inside him became clear through small actions rather than big words. He still kept his quiet nature, but he no longer used silence as a wall. He listened more openly. He allowed himself to stay a moment longer in shared spaces. He did not rush away from connection the way he once had. These changes were subtle, almost invisible to others, but to him they felt powerful. One morning he crossed paths with the woman near the river again. This time he did not freeze. He did not turn away. He greeted her calmly, just as he would greet anyone else. She returned the greeting with the same gentle respect she always showed. They stood there for a short while, speaking about simple things, the work of the day, the changing weather, the quiet flow of the water beside them. There was no tension, no fear. Just ease. That ease surprised him more than anything else. He realized that what he feared for so long was not connection itself, but the loss of control he believed came with it. Yet here he was, standing calmly, still himself, still strong. He had not lost anything by allowing a simple conversation. Instead, he felt more present, more alive. As days passed, they spoke occasionally, never too much, never forced. Each exchange was respectful and natural. Sometimes they spoke about daily responsibilities. Other times they shared quiet observations about life around them. There was no rush to define anything, and that made all the difference. He noticed that being around her did not weaken him. It sharpened his awareness. He became more thoughtful, more patient. He carried himself with a steadiness that came not from control, but from understanding. Slowly, others in the village noticed the change. They saw him speak more often, stand closer during gatherings, and remain present instead of distant. No one questioned him directly. They simply observed, quietly, as communities often do. One evening, an elder approached him with a knowing smile. The elder did not ask questions or give advice. He simply said that it was good to see balance returning. The man nodded, understanding the meaning behind the words. Balance. That was what he had been missing all along. He also came to understand something important about the woman. She did not seek to change him. She did not expect him to become someone else. Her presence was steady, not demanding. She carried her own history, her own strength, and her own quiet resilience. that mutual independence created trust. Over time, he shared small pieces of his past, not the deepest pain at first, but honest truths about who he was and why he lived as he did. She listened without judgment. She did not push for more. Her acceptance was calm and sincere. That acceptance healed something inside him. He realized that refusing all women had once been a way to survive. But survival was not the same as living. Living required courage, the courage to risk feeling, to trust slowly, and to accept uncertainty. He no longer believed that opening his heart meant losing himself. Instead, he saw that it allowed him to become more whole. As the seasons shifted, their connection deepened naturally. They worked side by side when needed, supported their people, and respected each other's space. There was no dramatic moment, no sudden promise. Just steady growth built on understanding. One quiet night, sitting near the fire, he reflected on the man he used to be. He did not judge that version of himself. He understood now why he had chosen distance. He had needed time. He had needed silence. And that was okay. But now, he was ready for more. The man who once refused all women was not gone. He had simply evolved. He had learned that strength could exist alongside openness, and that trust did not erase caution. It balanced it. The woman who unknowingly changed his path never claimed credit. She simply continued being herself. And that, he realized, was the greatest gift of all. In the end, the story was not about refusal or surrender. It was about growth. About a man who learned that life does not ask us to be fearless, only honest. And in choosing honesty, he finally allowed himself to move forward, calm, steady, and no longer alone.